Good morning, ma'am, and thank you very much for your time. Just tell us a bit more about, what really made you think that another toll-free number will be of assistance, because we always hear about the need for more resources to support victims of GBV, and a number of attempts are being made, obviously, in the country. What led you and your organization to do this?
Good morning, Dan, and good morning to your listeners. The reason for us opening up our own dedicated shelter helpline was because of the spike that we saw within the deep and hard lockdown of COVID-19, level 5 and level 4, where women were struggling to get assistance and, more importantly, struggling to get into shelters. I have experience of practical examples where we, in the hard lockdown, had referred women to a police station, and she then went subsequently early morning, and then I get a call at 6 o'clock the evening saying that the woman is still sitting at the police station waiting for assistance. And so these are the reasons why one of the reasons why we've actually decided to search for funding and get our own dedicated helpline.
So how will it work?
Well, we have recruited 3 social workers that are experienced. They've undergone extensive training, specifically in gender-based violence, also to assist with containment, and then also with regards to supporting women in terms of how to access, for example, protection orders, and then also just with regards to referral pathways, because sometimes it's not just about the woman getting into a shelter, but also, more importantly, knowing how and where to access the necessary services. For example, with children who've been abused, child helpline could be one of the referral pathways, but more importantly also is to try and assist women to get into a shelter, because that's the important part for us.
Okay, before I ask you another question, what's the number?
It's 0800
0800
001
001
005.
005. I'm going to repeat it. It's 0800 001 005.
That's correct.
And it is toll-free, and it goes live when?
It goes live on 2 December.
On 2 December. That will be next week, I think. Next week,
yes.
Wednesday. Okay.
Next week, yeah. Wednesday.
I'm hoping my producer Kobisa has noted this number, because we need to put it out there to support our viewers who are listening. We must share this number as widely as possible. It's important for us as the media as well to do our little bit in order to stop this pandemic. The number is 0800 001 005. It's a toll-free number. It's going to be live on the 2nd of December. So you've received funding. But when we speak to NGOs, I've interviewed a number of NGOs here on ENC, including yesterday, NGOs who are working with abused women in Northwest Province, in Gauteng, and so on. And they're saying that one of the biggest issues is resources. You've finally received some funding for this toll-free number, but you're going to need more, because you have to keep it going.
Absolutely, Dan. The funding that we received is only for 2 years from the Ford Foundation. And so when you say that you've spoken to NGOs, that is a challenge for shelters and for NGOs across provinces. You will remember that the Commission on Gender Equality released their investigative report last year in June, stating that shelters are grossly underfunded. And so it's really a challenge for shelters to keep their doors open when, for example, the shelter that I work in, we only receive 39% of our funding from the Department of Social Development. The rest we have to source ourselves.
Yeah, now shelters is one of the issues. 2 of the ladies I interviewed yesterday, I'm trying to remember their full names, but I only remember their first names now, Sbongile and Mutusi, who represent 2 different NGOs, said one of the other challenges is that shelters need to be supported more and they need to really be assisted both by government and the private sector. Your shelter movement, are you getting a sense now that there's a heightened awareness that there is a need for us to stop this pandemic of GBV, that people are beginning to, organizations, those who can fund, those who can afford to fund, you are beginning to open their wallets for the shelters like yours?
Absolutely, Dan. One is, having worked in the sector for so long, there is a heightened awareness about the challenges that shelters are facing. And for me, if I should identify a turning point, it has exactly been when, for the first time in the history of the globe, a president actually called for a summit. And so there has been that slow shift towards assisting shelters more. But the challenges that we always face in our country is it lies within the implementation of things. And so the various stakeholders need to come on board and assist. We have all the laws in place, but it's putting the money and the acts in there to be able to really support women and shelters who are providing these services to women and their children.
Yeah, because you said you're employing 3 social workers with the funding from the Ford Foundation that you have for the next 2 years, but there are other skills that you require in a shelter and other materials. What are your biggest challenges today? If somebody is watching this and is thinking, how can I assist Joy Lange and her National Shelter Movement, what would you be asking for today?
With regards to the biggest challenges that shelters face generally, as I stated, I'm in the Western Cape, and so we are best practice within the provinces when we compare to other provinces. The biggest challenge is operational cost, because if you want to provide quality services, you need the necessary funding to be able to support the women when they come in. So it's not just the psychosocial support in terms of the social work services, it's the day-to-day turning around. It's the day-to-day turning around in terms of putting food on the table. We have, for example, challenges within the Eastern Cape where those shelters who are supposed to be receiving funding from the Department of Social Development have not received their second tranche yet. And so how do these people keep the doors open and try and get people in to be able to feed them when they're not receiving the necessary funding? So operational cost is the biggest thing. I mean, finding the petrol funds to be able to support a client who's needing to go to court, for example. It's a very daunting experience to be able to go on your own. You're in a shelter, now you're having to go to a court case, and so we have dedicated staff who actually go and support the client when she has to be in court. Okay. And we know that is another a topic of discussion for another day.
Yeah, no, I understand, Joy. There's so many, such a complex picture, but basically you need to be properly resourced. Funding plays a role. And well done to you and your colleagues for setting up this toll-free number, 0800 001 005. That goes live toll-free from next week, Wednesday, the 2nd of December. And I'm hoping somebody is listening to say, how can I support the National Shelter Movement of South Africa? Tough times indeed, because just in the news this morning, we're having another a death in the country during 16 days of activism. A mother and 5 children being chopped to death in the Eastern Cape. The horrors of GBV still very much with us. Thank you very much, Joy Lange, and good luck with your efforts.